as if she couldn't possibly talk fast enough to cover all her exciting news. When she finally paused to ask how Arthur was, it felt only partly sincere. She might make the obligatory inquiry about his new book, but he surmised that she thought his life's work, writing, to be one big joke. It pained him to think she'd never expected him to amount to much in the first place. He had always thought, or was the right word assumed, that Gloria was as content as he was in their small coastal town, that she loved Maine's rocky beaches and its small-town feel, that she anticipated spending their retirement years doing pleasant things together, such as reading and gardening and hiking. All those years of being mistaken. It tired him just to contemplate it. He cracked the eggs in the pan, poured in the milk, and with his knife speared the yellow, shiny yolks that reminded him of melting suns. Gloria always filled him in on the girls and the grandkids. In that way, at least, she was good. The twins were busy with sports, a fact that made him proud, and Luke was always saying something funny to make him laugh. His ex-wife made a point of writing down the grandkids' little quotes so she could remember to tell Arthur. Things like Teddy saying, "The trees are leaking," on a rainy day, or Grace wanting to know if God and Santa were friends. Well, he would see his grandkids soon enough, on Saturday. He couldn't wait to get to the summer house and wrestle with them, maybe shoot some hoops with the boys. He enjoyed kicking back a few beers with Mac, who'd always struck Arthur as a stand-up guy, a good match for Maggie. Jess's husband, on the other hand, was a different story. If anyone asked Arthur, his middle daughter had married a bit of a nincompoop. But of course no one ever did, except for Virgie, his baby. She cared what her old man thought, and at the idea of her, Arthur's heart performed a little pirouette in his chest. His girl. Funny how he thought of only Virgie that way. She was so much like her mother in personality, all color and flash, but she'd followed in Arthur's footsteps by becoming a journalist, a writer, and that made him exceedingly proud. He wasn't supposed to have favorites, but damn it, Virginia was a good kid. He pushed the runny scrambled eggs onto a plate and carried them out to the deck to cool, then returned to pour himself another cup of coffee. He leaned against the counter and sipped. It seemed he was forgetting something, but he couldn't recall what. Had he talked to Maggie last night? He thought that he had, a conversation skimming the edges of his memory, but it hadn't been about next week. What was it again? He searched his mind, turned back to the phone as if it might offer a clue. Then he saw it. The sketch of a window on the notepad sitting on the counter. The broken window. He was supposed to call Jay to get it fixed. Or was it Maggie? It didn't matter. He picked up the phone and dialed, waiting until the answering machine clicked on.
"Hello, Jaybird. It's Arthur here."
He paused, cleared his throat.
"Listen, Maggie and the kids are down at the house and there's a broken window in the downstairs bathroom. It would be super if you could stop by and fix it. I'll be there on Saturday and we'll pay you back in beers."
The machine cut him off before beers, but he knew Jay would understand. It was their standard barter. It irked him that he'd let such a thing go. As he walked back to the deck with his coffee and paper, he tried to remember what he'd been doing at the summer house. When he sat down, the fork suspended over his plate, he was struck with instant recall. A small scar snaked across his right hand, starting at the fleshy, soft indent below the index finger and traveling down around his thumb. The skin had caught on the glass when it cracked. Arthur had been trying to let in fresh air, but the next thing he knew, his hand was bleeding like crazy. No wonder he'd forgotten to call about the window. He'd cut the hell out of his hand and had to go search for bandages in the upstairs cabinet. He'd been so focused on cleaning up the blood in the upstairs sink that he'd completely forgotten about the window. At the time, he had worried he might need a stitch, but the wound had healed up okay. He took a bite of his eggs, soggy and lukewarm. It was hard to make good eggs, he reflected. Gloria must have a secret recipe where she got the ratio of eggs to milk just right. He swallowed, dissatisfied. The weather stain he'd applied a few years ago was wearing thin on the deck railings, light specks of wood poking through the varnish, as if the deck had a bad